Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah amma ba'd. This is very brief, and I know this is kind of late, alhamdulillah. But something have reached our attention by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala that we would like to share with everyone pertaining to this matter that is very redundant. However, it is still needed, especially definitely in our day and age, because the more that we are separated from the time of Nubuwwah, of prophethood, and the illustrious three virtuous generations, the more we're going to see a lot of confusion, a lot of ikhtilaf, a lot of differing, especially a lot of misunderstanding of texts. And what's going to happen, or what's going to take place, is a lot of individuals are going to come up with their own understandings to support their views in regards to how they carry out their day-to-day lives. And this is something that we must understand. There is a statement that I want to lead with this talk. This is, inshallah, a very brief talk, but the statement is a statement that is attributed to Sheikh Al-Albani, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh. And it's a profound statement, because if you really just analyze it, and this is not the time to really go deep into this statement, but like he says that the truth is only one. It's not plural. You don't need multiple evidences to ascertain your proof. He says, for the people of truth, for the people who want the haqq, for the people of truth, one evidence is sufficient for them. He said, but for the people of desires, 1,000 proof will not be enough. He said 1,000 proof or evidence will not be enough for them. And this is profound, because it doesn't matter when someone is following their desires or persuaded by their desires, whether they understand it or not. It doesn't matter how many truths you give them. It doesn't matter what you say to them. So it's careful. Now, we all aware of many of the different fatwas that has been passed down, especially from the ummah, the a'imma, the illustrious imams from both past and present, about the impermissibility of celebrating or giving customary greetings to the people upon their Eid festivities. We all know this. This is something that many of us have came across, and many of us do not know. So we have to enlighten and educate those who do not know. But we have to understand the crux of the situation. We have to understand, why is it so dangerous? Why do the ulama have a consensus? This is an ijma' issue. Why do they have an ijma' about this situation? We have to understand that. There is one hadith that people use, especially in defense of their statements, and they have a mispoorly understanding of how to apply the text. And that is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم لادعى رجال أموال قوم ودماءهم لكن بينة على مدعي واليمين على من أنكر. And this tremendous hadith, he says that where the people were to be given due to their claims, then the people wealth and their blood would have been what? It would have been violated. Have people can come and just claim, just based off your claim, and you can take someone's wealth, you can violate someone's wealth, or you can someone's property or someone's blood by just way of your claim. If people have been given to just their claims, the Prophet ﷺ said, however, the burden of proof is upon the claimant. And he says the oath is upon the one who denies. Okay? The defendant who denies the allegation, the oath is this. This is a tremendous hadith, and this is not the time to go delve too deep into this hadith. This hadith deals really with a lot of rulings, especially what they call fiqh, jurisprudence, when it comes in definitely with the judge ruling between two disputing parties. This is all of that. But many people use this hadith when they want to try to present their argument or their behalf of their misunderstanding of text. The Eid, whether it's any ayat, we must understand what is the problem with the Eid. It doesn't just say it's orf. A lot of people, they throw around words. Well, it's orf. It's a tradition. It's a custom tradition that this is what people do, so this is what we accept. No. The Eid is not just a customary tradition. Do you understand that? The Eid fall under what we call legislation. And we get this from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as many of the ulama explained. When he went to Medina, when he got to Medina, they were celebrating certain festivities. And he said to them, I know of something that Allah have exchanged better for what you are doing, for these days that you are celebrating. And Allah has given us such and such. And he mentioned the Eid al-Fitr and the Eid al-Adha. And he mentioned these 2 days because Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who can legislate festivities. Do you understand that? And just because people take festivities and take days of celebrations, it's not just saying it's a customary thing. No, it's fall under Allah legislation. If it falls under Allah legislation, then you can't just say it's room. There is no room. If it falls under Allah's legislation, then it falls under that which is another fiqh principle many people throw out there. Everything in the dunya is halal to proven haram. Many people use this argument. Everything in the dunya, no, you don't understand the principle. Everything in the deen is proven haram to proven halal. Because legislation is the deen, and that's the right of Allah and His Messenger. So if Allah didn't legislate it, it's not for us to come along and speak about it. It's not for us to come along and say, okay, now I can understand it because this is an orf situation. It's not. And you're going to see that as we go into the words of Ibn al-Qayyim as well as Ibn Taymiyyah, how they looked at this view based off a consensus of studying how deep and dangerous it is by just participating in a customary greeting to the people who actually celebrate these holidays. And we take it really as a light matter, which also the words, I'm going to use their words, I'm not going to use my words, the statements that they actually made for the one who actually is afflicted with this. And may Allah protect us from this. Ameen. He says here, Sheikh Salih Fawzan comment just a little bit on the hadith I mentioned earlier. He says, when the Prophet ﷺ said, were the people giving due to their claims, then people's wealth would have been what? Have been squandered, and their blood would have been violated. He said, so the claimant, it is possible that he might make a claim that is large, like it's big, a large grievance. It might be a really large grievance. He might claim that his disputing, the one that he's arguing with, have killed someone. And he says, for you talk people qisas. So he wants the rule of equality. He wants qisas. But this is a claim because no proof have been actually brought. But this is what he claimed. He said it is possible he might sow for him some wealth. And he might want abundance of wealth. وَقَدْ يَكُونَ كَلِيلًا, right? Or little. So he is not to be given just off the mere claim itself. The allegations itself, the judge is not to rule in his case. He's not to just give because anyone come to claim. He continues. He says, لأنه لا فتح هذا باب وكل يعتمد دعا على حصل فساد واعتداد على الناس. He said, because if this door is open, if this door were to remain open like this, where anyone can make a claim, and then they would, this, he says, what would happen? He said there would occur much corruption, and it would be much i'tidad ala nas, much transgressions against people. Imagine someone coming, you don't even know them. They just come up and said, well, such and such actually took something off of my property. They don't have to bring no proofs. They don't have to bring nothing to support, no witnesses, anything to support their claim. They just have to make that claim. Imagine that door being open and the judge rule and say, well, such and such is a truthful person without any proofs and evidence, and now this is levied against you. That would be a lot of chaos, wouldn't it? So, and this is why I love the deen. Nothing is left out. So here it is. Here he says, وَكُلُّ مَنْ لَهُ حَوَى عَلَى أَحَدٍ نِدَّعَى عَلَيْهِ. He says, so each person that has a desire to himself upon another person who he claims against the person he's laying the claim. فَلَا يُقْبَلُ مِنْهُ لِمُجَرَّدِ الدَّعْوَةِ. So we don't just accept a person claim. We don't just accept a claim because merely of a claim. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ أَصْدَقِ النَّاسِ لَا يُقْبَلُ مِنْهُ. Even if he's the most truthful of people, we know him to be truthful, we just don't accept his claim. It's going to be more than just that. إِلَّا إِذَا أَتَى بِالْبَيِّنَةِ. Except that he comes with the proof. Meaning of the hadith. This is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, by the way. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us and informing those who are in the position of judging and ruling between not to just give to any one claim. Right? He says also, now, alhamdulillah, you can go to Surah As-Sad to deal with the issue of Dawood alayhi salam. وَلِهَذَا قال, for this reason he says, لَكِنَّ بَيِّنَةُ عَلَى مُدَّعِي. For this reason the Prophet ﷺ said, no, the burden of proof is upon the claimant. You made a claim, now you have to present your evidence. It's not on anyone else. And this where a lot of people don't understand this text. And it's the reason why I brought it, because people use it and they throw it around just to try to support their argument. Number one, when it comes to acts of ibadah, no one have to bring you proof whether you can do it or not. It comes upon you individually knowing whether you can do it or not. This is a part people try to use this hadith to be ascertained to that. If you're going to do an act of ibadah, an act of worship, or anything that isn't legislated or sanctioned by Allah Azza wa Jal, it's not on you now to say that someone else questioned you for what you're doing. You say, well, you have to bring the proof for me doing this. Is it such and such? No. It's upon you to seek, to research, to ask those who know when you're going to do something that is legislated by Allah Azza wa Jal or go against His legislation. Is upon you. It's not upon someone else to come up and figure this one out for you. No, this is about worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever Allah legislated, we know is just. So if you're talking about what Allah has legislated, you can't just jump up and say, well, no, brother or sister, no, it's upon you. I can do it. No, you can't do it. You have to have evidence in and of yourself to do it. This is why Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, if you go back into his biography, he would not allow the people during his caliphate. What would he allow? He wouldn't allow a person to go out in the marketplace to be a merchant unless he knew the ahkam al-bay' wal-buyu', unless he knew the rules of buying and selling, Islamically now, unless he knew the rules of trade, unless he knew what was permissible and what's not permissible, unless he knew how to do that. That's the only way that person can be able out there to sell and be a merchant inside the marketplace. Why? Because it takes knowledge what you're doing. It still falls under act of ibadah, so that you don't cheat the people, that you don't rob the people, that you don't do usury, that you don't do such and such. But you can't do that if you don't have knowledge. You understand? I can't open up a shop tomorrow or the next day and say, you know what, I'm just going to open the shop. Alhamdulillah, the earth, everything is halal, everything is halal to prove it haram. No, you can't do that. You're talking about buying and selling. Now there's rules to that. If you're talking about giving customary greetings to people during their festivities, there's rules to that. Right? You can't. It's a legislation. Do you understand? One, you ask yourself, did Allah legislate that Eid? If the answer is no, then you already know your answer. If Allah didn't legislate that Eid, then you can't give it to him. And you can't say, okay, I'm going to take the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and when he let Aisha look at the Abyssinians when they were in the masjid doing their spears and the little dance that they were doing. You can't even group that with that. And I'm going to tell you the reason why you can't group that with that. Number one, you can't group that with that if you don't understand the actual text of that hadith. All right? Especially you don't understand the issue of that hadith. Who do you have? As Imam Ahmed said, we don't take a position unless we have an imam precede us. Who do you have of knowledge that actually understood the hadith in the way that you're talking about? Who used it as istidlal? Who had used it as a way of proof in the way that you're using it? Who had did istikhraj? Who has istinbat? Who actually took in the knowledge and took from it and extracted from it the evidence which you're trying to use it for in that way? Who have done it? Just bring your proof on that. Who done that? You can't say you did it. You're a layman. You can't say you done that. So you have to go back to someone of knowledge that have used that. And then you have to look at the opposing side. How many other people from amongst the people of ulama actually rules that hadith in the same way? See how it's steps and stages? We can't just read things at face value and just use it because they only agree to what nafs. Henceforth, if a person does this, you see that they're really going with their desires more so than they're going with the haqq. He says at the end of this, he says, mentioned at the end, he says, وَبَيِّنَ, what is bayyina here that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about? He said is in ya'tiya bishshuhud, meaning that he brings witnesses. All right? Meaning that he brings witnesses. Okay? لِأَنَّهُ يَدَّعِي خِلَافَ أَصْلٍ. He said because this is what you have to understand. The one who's making the claim, he's basically against the defendant. He is going against the asl, the origin. Right? وَأَصْلُ بَرَاءَ. The asl, the origin is that a person is innocent. Right? Bara'a, or free in this case, for يطالب بإقامة البينة. So it is sought from him that he has to establish some proof for his claim. فإذا أتى ببينة حكم له بوجوبها على مدعى عليه. So if he does come and present his witnesses for his claim, to support his claim, then the ruling will be necessitated against the defendant. Okay? He says, لأن هذا يثبت حق, because in this case he would have what? Established the evidence against the defendant. فإذا لم يأتي ببينة, but if he does not come with this proof, أو قال ليس عندي بينة, or he says he does not have this evidence, أو جاء ببينة لا تقبل شهادتها, or he does come with some proof or some evidence where the witnesses or the thing that he have is not sufficient enough to be accepted. He said لأنها مجروحة, because that thing in itself might be what? مجروحة. It can be something that is actually harmful, something that is not even actually correct. فوجودها كعدمها. So even though it is present and that he brought it, it's like it's not there, because we can't use it. It's insufficient evidence. فَتَوَجَّهُ قَاضِي إِلَى مُدَّعَ عَلَيْهِ. So then the judge would turn around and look at the one whom the claim is being levied against, meaning the defendant. فإن اعتراف قضي عليه بالاعتراف. So if he recognizes, then the judge will reside against him as far as his recognition. But if he denied the actual claim that's leveled against him, meaning the defendant, he denied the allegations. He said, وَقَالَ لَيْسَ هَذَا شَيْءٌ عِنْدِي. He said, this is not something with me. He says, طُلِبَ مِنْهُ يَمِينٌ. Then the judge will actually sort from the defendant the allegation. He would say to him, he would sort from him him to swear, to give an oath on the behalf of Allah Azza wa Jalla. فَإِنْ يَحْلَفَ بِاللَّهِ عَلَى نَفْيِ مَنْ دَعَهُ عَلَيْهِ خُصْمُهُ. That he swear by Allah Azza wa Jalla against the claims or the allegations that is levied against him by the claimant. That he swear against Allah. وَأَنَّهُ بَرِيءٌ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And that he is free from that which the person is levied against. فَإِذَا حَلَفَ بِاللَّهِ تُرَكَ. So if he do swear and he does deny it, then he should be left alone. Right? Because the other individual, that's what he said, لِأَنَّ جَانِبَ مُدَّعَ عَلَيْهِ أَقْوَى. Because the side in the position of the one who's the defendant, the allegations being brought, the other one didn't bring his proof. So if the one who is the defendant is denying it and he actually swears by Allah that he denies it, then he frees himself and the judge should leave him alone. Because there was no proof and evidence brought against him from the other party. Do you understand that? He says, فَمَعَهُ أَصْلُ بَرَاءَ. So with him is the innocence of that, and it be sufficient enough with his swearing, by him swearing about Allah. فَإِذَا حَلَفَ فَإِنَّهُ يَبْرَأُ بِهَنَائِدٍ وَتَنْتَهِي قَضِيًّا. Alright, that's what I wanted to bring in the misconception of that hadith, especially dealing with, our understanding and the customary greeting. Now I want to bring the statement of Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah. We have been led to wrap this up, and I want you to understand something. Whenever there is a scholar, regardless of whether or not their statements can be used as proofs or evidence, we know that their statements in itself is not proofs and evidence. But when you don't have a proof and evidence, there are other ways that is ascertained in the deen that we use, okay? Now, you still have to respect a statement of a scholar, especially if it's based off some type of evidence. And this is sometimes some people don't understand that. It doesn't mean that we blind follow the scholars. It doesn't mean that we are taking them above a station that they are deserving of. It doesn't mean that we are now being like bigots or people who just clinging blindly to their scholars. No, that's not the case here. The case here is that you don't have no supporting evidence for your claim. And if you don't, then now you have to go to that which is next best, to those who have the necessary tools and the formidable tools to go in and delve deeply into these issues to be able to extract what you're looking for, right? Now, Ibn Qayyim, he says in a book, the name of this book is called Ahlul Dhimmi. And for those who don't know, Ahlul Dhimmi are a group of people who are under the jizya, right? They are either under the rulership within, they find themselves in a Muslim country that is ran by, a Muslim leader, and they find themselves subjects. They are subjects of the Muslims. And in regards to that, there are certain ways that they are to be approached and how to be dealt with in that case. Hence, Allah talks about jizya in Surah Al-Bara'ah and Surah At-Tawbah, right? Surah 9. He talks about jizya, the tax that is leveled against those who seek the protection, so to speak, of the Muslims while living in the Muslim lands, all right? And they are not Muslims, they are non-believers. So in this book that Ibn Qayyim put together, he come across a chapter dealing with congratulating the kuffar on the rituals that belong only to them is haram by consensus. Now I want you to understand this. This scholar just now made a claim that this is haram. First and foremost, when anyone makes a statement that something is halal and haram, that is for who? That's for Allah and His Messenger. Do you understand? As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَعَلَسِنَاتِهُمْ. They have their tongues. وَلَا تَسِفُ عَلَسِنَاتِهُمْ. Do not make their tongues make a statement that had the halal or had the haram. They say that this is halal or this is haram. Understand this issue. Meaning, in other words, in Surah An-Nahl, Allah is telling you that this affair is for me. I say what's halal and what's haram. Do you understand this? So if a scholar of this pedigree is going to make a statement like this, and we all know the fadl and virtue of Ibn Qayyim, come on. If he's going to make a statement that this is haram, then believe me, out of good thoughts for this scholar and for his pedigree and his station, is that we're not going to say he's just picking this out the air, that he's not emanating from himself. Do you understand this? This is very important. So he says now to support his view that it's haram. He didn't say, and you have to understand what's haram. He didn't say, no, it's something that is frowned upon, is disliked, or is something that you should stay clear of. No, he said it's haram. And he said it's done by ijma'. Now the ulama, they have said that the evidence the main evidence, the two of them is the Kitab wa Sunnah, and then the sub branches that we call Ijma' wa Qiyas. And some argue about the Qiyas. And then there are other subcategories that we use as ways of dalil. Alright? But he says by Ijma', as is congratulating them on their festivals. Okay? In other words, congratulating them on their festivals and fast by saying a happy festival to you. Okay? Or may you enjoy your festival. And so on. If the one who says this have been saved from kufr, in other words, he's a Muslim. If the one who says these customary greetings to the people during the time of their celebrations, because he doesn't say this outside of their celebrations, but he says this during the time of their festivities. If the one who says this, he says, and he has been saved from kufr, in other words, he's a Muslim, Allah guided him, it is still haram. It is still impermissible. He doesn't stop. I want you to pay attention. It is like, now look what he says. It is like congratulating someone for prostrating to the cross. This is why we don't understand how deep things are, man. It's deeper than what you think the implications are. You think Allah Jalla wa Ala just makes something impermissible just to make it impermissible. You're wrong. Allah Azza wa Jalla had to do that. If he makes something impermissible, he makes the means to lead to that thing become impermissible as well. Do you understand that? Because the thing is actually detrimental. Henceforth, why you think the Prophet ﷺ said, don't exaggerate your praise of me like the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, have done to their prophets. Why you think he says that? Why you think he's so many ahadith that stricts and shows us how to behave with the people in the grave? Now look at the fitna. The fitna bin took place after the Prophet ﷺ passed. Right now look at the fitna of people going to the graves, worshiping people in the graves, supplicating to half of the people in the graves, venerating the people in the graves. Look at the fitna. You don't see it? How many people commit shirk on a daily basis just on the graves? And you think it's not a serious matter and you think he just was just saying this to say it? No. He's telling you that these issues are something that is connected, that Shaitan used to Bani Adam, that they are persuaded by this. So he actually prohibited you from it so you don't fall into it. Umar ibn Khattab was stern. He actually didn't even let you go. He didn't, during this caliphate, he didn't let you go. This is why they mention in Sahih Bukhari that the hadith of Anas ibn Malik in the book of Fitan, that Umar ibn Khattab was the door. When he got martyred and he was killed, when that door happened, that's when innovation showed his head. During the time of Umar ibn Khattab, innovation wasn't around. Do you understand that? Innovation wasn't around. It didn't show his head. Innovation showed his head after Umar passed away. He was stern. I mean, the Shaitan will walk on the other side. He was stern, sticking to it. And then you got people nowadays that look at me and you and say that we're bigots, or we're zealots, or we're people who are just too extreme. We're too many fundamentalists. There's no fun in our way. We don't understand how to be sympathetic or compassionate towards our fellow being. SubhanAllah. Come on, man. I'm not going for that one. He said, or even worse than that, it is as a great sin as congratulating someone for drinking wine, or murdering someone, or having illicit sexual relationships, and so on. Do you hear what he's saying? These are major sins. He's saying just giving the greeting is equated to that. When you tell someone, yeah, happy holidays, and you're like, oh, I don't really no big deal. You just equate it to all of that. It's just like you, okay, what is the holiday for? And then the sad thing about all of this, Christmas, New Year's, most of the holidays are the kuffar, to be honest with you. The kuffar themselves is of an agreement that these holidays are not sanctioned by God. It's crazy. And they know that it's connected to an economy-based driven situation. They know this. And some of them say, okay, we do it just when we have for the kids. But they know that it's not sanctioned and legislated by God themselves. They know this. But yet and still you'll find someone coming along using the pretense, is he going to say, oh, I got to say this for my family member. I got to be civil because of my family. I got to be civil because of my neighbors. I got to be civil because of my colleagues or my employees or my employer. No, you don't have to be that. Upholding your principles is an opportunity to educate those who do not know. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْكُمْ. كما قال النبي, as Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Jalla wa Ala said, indeed we have made you a just, balanced nation so that you may be a witness over mankind. Do you understand? that you may be a witness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be a witness of Allah's signs of being a Muslim and being an upright and exalted standard character of a person against those who are what? Upon kufr. You are a witness for them. You upholding your tenets and upholding the qawaid of your principles of your faith is actually educating and instructions to other people, and they respect you for that. The problem is you want to sympathize and be compassionate enough to actually remove this izzah that Allah have given you. Allah said, "Ulaika hum khayrul bariyah," that those who believe and do righteous deeds, they are the best of creation. You want to take that now, that actual virtue and fadl that Allah have given you, you want to take that and remove that now. And you want to placate and be compassionate enough towards people whom Allah says, "Ulaika hum sharrul bariyah." Allah said, nay, they are the worst of creation. So how is you trying to be sympathetic and compassionate towards the people who are the worst of the creation? The people who cut off the very connection between them and their Lord. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You can't do that. It doesn't make sense. So he goes on here, he says, many of those who have no respect. Listen to his words. It's not mine. He said, many of those who have no ihtiram for their deen fall into this era. Now he's telling you that the person who actually does this have no respect for their deen. The person who does this have no respect. You might say, well, brother, I think you're being a little bit too harsh here. I think you're being a little bit too harsh. This is not, is it disbelief if I greet them? Who asks a question like that? Think about it. Is it disbelief? Go back and delve into the issue of Ayyam, the Asma' wa Ayyam, the name of the days of the calendar. I want you to go back and look during the time of the campaigns with one Allah Ta'ala. I did a nice research on this. I was trying to translate it. I think I posted some of it up on the page. But you will find that the Muslims during that time, there were kuffar that lived amongst them that had the Christian calendar they was using. And because they was using the Christian calendar, they did not want to use it. The Muslims themselves came up with their own days. You understand? They came up with their own days just to be different than the kuffar. Just to be different. So you're going to say they was extreme? You're taking a little bit too extreme now. You're going to say they was extreme? Some of the campaigns, but they're extreme? No, they understand that things are connected deeply more than what's on the surface. They understand that. And that the way that you think and the way that you behave and the way that you speak is also connected to your connection to the Creator. And if you allow your thoughts and you allow your actions and your behavior to be sympathetic to that of the kuffar, then what you're really doing is putting your iman at threat. So you have to place a barrier, you have to place a distance, and you have to remove yourself from it. Do you understand? To safeguard your deen. This is why it's laid there. And the moment you start blurring those lines, the moment you're not going to have any more respect for your deen. And what may Allah protect you, you might go off to the deep end. So he says here, he says, they do not realize the offensiveness of their actions. They don't understand the implications of or the dangers of their actions. Whoever congratulates a person for his disobedience or bid'ah, innovation, or kufr, disbelief, exposes himself to the wrath and anger of Allah. Do you hear that? So now think about it. I go up to my colleague, I go to my employer, I go to this and that, and I wanted to say something to be civil. I say to my family member, and I know that they celebrating this holiday that has not been legislated by Allah. They know it's not legislated by Allah, but I say to them anyway, oh yeah, enjoy your festival. What type of messages I'm sending to them? Am I being civil in this case? No, I'm not. I am telling them that they are being disobedient to Allah, and I am okay with that. So much so, I'm going to cheer you on in your disobedience. I know and you know that God didn't sanction that, but I'm going to cheer you on in your disobedience. That's how deep it is. That's what the scholar is saying. And you're not even looking at it like that. How can you sit there and give someone a greeting upon their festivities and say to yourself that I'm just being civil? This just is custom. It's not kufr to do it. How? No. And then not only that, you don't have one hadith. And you know that you don't even want to research. You want the other person to research it for you. You don't have one hadith that the Prophet ﷺ did this. Not one. You can't use the Abyssinian slaves playing with their spears. First of all, was that a Eid? Was that a Eid? It doesn't mention in the hadith that was a Eid. It mentioned it was something that was from their customs that they would do. But was it a Eid? You're mixing two things. If it wasn't an Eid, you can't say that. Was it a celebration that was legislated for that? Then we can start talking and bringing that hadith. But you're going to bring that hadith as an argument for what? But even stronger than that, show me where one time the Prophet ﷺ ever greeted the kuffar in their festivals. And it was disbelievers. There was Jews in Medina. There were 3 tribes actually. One of them, he was actually, Allah Azza wa Jal gave him the issue to go against them. All right? You had 3 tribes Allah talks about in Surah Al-Hashr of Jews that was upon kufr. You had Christians during the time of the Prophet ﷺ that was upon kufr. You had mushrikun that was during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And they celebrated their festivities. But show me where the Prophet ﷺ ever. Actually, we got reports that a man from the kuffar was trying to give the Prophet ﷺ a gift and he wouldn't accept it. He was trying to give him a gift and he wouldn't accept it. So if the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't accept the gift from the non-believer, what makes you think he's going to give the greetings to a non-believer? Tell me. Show me one. Now let's move past the Prophet ﷺ. Let's go to his companions. Show me one incident in any of the 3 generations, especially the generations of the companions, that they actually greeted or gave a customary greeting to anybody. This is how deep it is. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ آمَنْتُمْ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Allah says this. If they believe like you believe, who are they talking about? Who are they and who are you? All right, Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari, Al-Qurtubi, all the great Mufassirun, they explained that when it says فَإِنْ آمَنُوا, meaning the mushrikeen at that time, and those people, the Quraysh, or the people who are being addressed by the Prophet ﷺ during the actual hadith, ayat is being sent down, they are the ones who are saying if they believe, Allah is addressing them. But then he said, بِمِثْلِ آمَنْتُمْ. Who is the آمَنْتُمْ? Who is the tum here? The antum, the pronoun. Who is you? They all agree that this is the Prophet and his companions. This is the Prophet and his companions. So if they believe like you believe, then they have been guided. See what Allah says? Showing you what? The fadl and the virtue of the belief of the Sahabas. That you must, and it's lazim on you that you believe him. If you don't believe me, I'm going to give you another verse. Allah says, وَمَنْ يُشَاكِكِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعُ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ سَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah An-Nisa, another verse, making this even explicitly more clear about the virtue and the obligation of following the companions. Allah said, whoever opposes Allah and the messenger after clear evidence have reached them. Has the Quran not been revealed? Has the Sunnah not been out there? After clear evidence has reached them, they oppose this, in opposition of that of the Prophet ﷺ and his commands. They oppose it. And they follow a way other than the believers. Allah did not say follow a way other than the way of his, other than the way of Muhammad ﷺ. Is a reason. He said follow a way other than the believers. All the great Mufassirun said the believers here are the companions. Who was fighting with the Prophet ﷺ? Who the revelation was coming down to? Who was there to say? وَيَتَّبِعُ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. They follow a way other than the believers, showing you what? You have to follow the companions. I don't care who you are. You have to follow them. Allah mentions that, their way. And then we can get to the hadiths, etc., etc. Those who are upon what I'm upon, me and my companions are upon today. We know there are many narrations that shows the fadl and the virtue of following the companions. So you can't escape that. So my question to you, if you want to say that giving a greeting to the kuffar is urf, is customary, then produce your evidence for that. That it is a customary thing. Because here Ibn Qayyim is saying this is haram, and he's saying this is based off of ijma', a consensus either between the companions or between the tabi'een or between the ulama. Regardless how you look at it, they all unanimously agree based by consensus that greeting or congratulating them during the festivities is haram. He didn't say it's dislike. He didn't say it's room. He didn't say you can wiggle here. He didn't say it's like urf. It's customary. I can do this. He didn't say because we sympathetic. No, he actually even went further than that. He says, and if you do that, it's like you congratulating them on a kufr. That's how deep you just went. Yeah. I congratulate you for disobeying Allah. I congratulate you for disbelieving Allah. I congratulate you for having innovation. La. Congratulating the kuffar on the religious festivals is haram. To the extent described by Ibn Qayyim, because it implies that one accepts or approves of their rituals of kufr. Even if one even if one will not accept those things for oneself. But the Muslim should not accept the rituals of the kufr, or congratulate anyone else for them, because Allah does not accept any of that. As Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ, if you disbelieve, okay, then really Allah is not in need of you. Allah is not in need of your disbelief. وَلَا يَرْضَى بِهِ الْكُفْرِ, Allah does not like disbelief for His servants. But if you are in shakaratum, but if you are grateful by being believers, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased for that for you. يَرْضَى لَكُمْ. Alright, this is Surah Zumar. Allah also said, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. We know the famous ayat in Surah Al-Ma'idah, today I have perfected your deen for you. And show me where did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislate that. Alright? So congratulating them is forbidden, whether they are one's colleague at work or otherwise. If they greet us on the occasion of their festivals, don't stop. We should not respond. Because there are not our festivals. And because there are not festivals which are acceptable to Allah. That's the crux. It's not about customary. It's not about, I don't want to offend your senses, or this is my family member, I'm trying to give them dawah. Come on, that's not the way to give dawah. You give dawah the way the Anbiya gave dawah. It's not about none of that. The crux is, did Allah legislate it or not? That's the crux. It's not acceptable by Allah. So by Allah, I must stand firm and not participate in it. You think I don't like turkey? You think I don't like food? What's wrong? No, I'm not going to participate in it because it's not sanctioned by Allah. Do you understand that? That's why I'm not going to participate in it. I don't want the leftovers. I don't care if it's the day after. Mom, friends, cousin called me. Yo, yeah, just come get some. You can eat after. You don't have to eat on the day. No, you made it specifically to celebrate that day. I don't want you or your intentions for it. It's not sanctioned by the Creator. This is the stance you need to understand. Understand the crux of issues. This is why the companions never, ever said this statement. Is it halal? Is it haram? You never got one report that he ever said that. Is it halal? Is it haram? Ya Rasulullah, is it halal? Is it haram? What do we say all the time? Because there's people who want to follow their desires. Think about it. Is it halal? Is it haram? Is it sunnah? This is what we say all the time. Is it halal? Is it haram? Is it sunnah? That's because you want to follow your desires. Is it halal? Is it haram? No. You don't need it. Is it halal? Haram? No. What does it? Like we started with the statement of Sheikh Al-Albani. Think what he said. One proof is sufficient for the person, a seeker of truth. The one who's talib haq is seeking the truth. Only one evidence is enough. He says what? For the people of desires, 1,000 evidence will never be enough for them. It will never be enough for them. We're going to follow our desires. He says here, he says, pay attention now. He says, these festivals are innovations in their deen. Allah Azza wa Jalla has an ayat in the Quran where He mentioned Am lakum shar'a deen, who have legislated for you your deen. Shar'a is very important, brothers and sisters. When it comes to legislation, only Allah can do that. It's very important. And if you go outside of that, I fear for you. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us to not to go outside of His legislation. He said, and because there are not festivals which are acceptable, Allah, there are festivals or innovations in their deen, and even those which they may have been prescribed formerly have been abrogated by the deen of Al-Islam. So even if it was a festival that was found with the people of the book, then that festival still by itself does not remain because it has been abrogated by Quran and Sunnah. And just because, and which many of us don't know, just because you think that because a person is a non-believer that they don't have to follow Quran, you're wrong. If they don't have to follow Sunnah, you're wrong. The khitab, as Sheikh Uthaymeen mentioned, the khitab, and many of the scholars of the past for him, the khitab, the address in the Quran. When Allah Jalla wa Ala addresses the believers and He addresses mankind, He addresses them all. Don't eat pork. Don't do this. He addressing them all. Allah Azza wa Jalla is not just addressing the believers. He didn't make an exception of the rule. He didn't say, okay, the non-believers, you can eat pork, and the believers, y'all can't eat pork. It's nowhere found in the Quran like that. Henceforth, why you think Allah says this? Shaykh Uthaymeen brings this point. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Ma salakakum fi saqar." Allah says, what will cause you to enter the fire? Why would the people be into fire? They would say, "Qalu lam nusalli," or "Lam nakun min al-musallin." We were not from those who pray, right? So the debate amongst the scholars were, is the kuffar addressed in this situation here? And they said yes. One view said yes. Because Allah Jalla wa Ala said, what will cause you to enter the fire? You didn't pray. So henceforth, if you didn't pray, he ain't just talking to the believers, he's talking to the non-believers as well. They are addressed. Do you understand that? They can't eat pork just like me and you can't eat pork. They can't drink wine just like me and you can't drink wine. They can't use take comer just like me and you can't take comer. Do you understand that? They choose to disobey, then they're gonna face the consequences of that action. They are going to be charged and responsible for their kufr. I do think you need to know that, right? So we need to understand this. Don't make us hardcore. It's just the reality, man. Stop trying to soften everything up when you don't have to. It don't make you hard. We're not going to say that Allah Azza wa Jalla is being hard towards the creation. He's the most compassionate. Even more compassionate than a woman. He's the one placed the rahmah in the womb for the woman. We're not going to say that Allah is not compassionate. So last but not least, he says here so we mentioned that he says, which the Prophet ﷺ, the whole of mankind, Allah says, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ إِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلُ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Whoever seeks a religion other than Islam, it will never be accepted of him, and hereafter he'll be one of the losers. Surah Ali Imran. It is haram for a Muslim to accept invitations on such occasions, because this is worse than congratulating them, as it implies taking part of their celebrations. Now it's a step further. You can't even accept their invite. Oh yeah, we having a family get together. You know, yeah, it's, you know, the holiday. You know, the what they call it, the holiday spirit. You know, we're inviting you over. Yeah, come over. I know you don't believe it, but just come over and just eat with us. You know, come have some. You know, come eat, drink with us. You know, we're families. Come over, get together, family reunion. This is what we having, right? And you know, you say to yourself, "Oh, this is no big deal. I'm going over here with family. My mom there, my sister there, my cousins I haven't seen in a while. I'm gonna make this a family reunion. I'm going over there to eat." You don't even know the harms. You don't even know the harms. You couldn't use the situation right there to give dawah. You want to give dawah to them by being apologetic. You want to give dawah to them by being compassionate upon their disobedience, by their innovating in the deen that Allah didn't legislate for them. You want to give dawah to them, then start by not going. Start by declining them in a respectable manner. This is you giving dawah. This is the dawah that you can give them, by showing them that because my Lord have prohibited me from this, I can't partake. And trust me, somebody in that crowd will take notice of that, whom Allah Jalla wa'ala decide. They will take notice of that you have prefer the legislation of your Lord over the legislation of the people. Do you understand? And by you doing that, you actually just gave them dawah. You don't give them dawah when you sit there and say, "No, I'm gonna go. I don't want my family to think I'm so strange or aloof. Islam is so hard." No, where you get this from? SubhanAllah. He says, similarly, Muslims are forbidden to imitate the kuffar by having parties on such occasions, or exchanging gifts, or giving out sweets or foods, or taking time off of work, etc. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever imitates a people is of them." Right? Yup, don't show up. That's all you got to do is not show up. He says what? وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ قَوْمٍ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he says in his book, اقتداء صراط المستقيم وخالفات أصحاب الجحيم, and that title is deep. اقتداء صراط المستقيم. This book actually been translated in English too. It's actually an excellent book, by the way. I mean, may Allah reward those who have translated the book, but I remember reading it once. It's an excellent book. He talks about even the issue of going to the graves and, you know, the graves of the kuffar and stuff like that. Even dealing that, the issue of the Prophet ﷺ going to, I mean, he deals with a lot of different stuff. But even in this book, he mentioned here that it is iqtida'u sirat al-mustaqim, in opposition to the people of the hellfire, right? Imitating them in some of their festivals implies that one is pleased, pay attention to what he's saying, with their false beliefs and practices, and gives them the hope that they may have the opportunity to humiliate and mislead the weak. You understand that? What you're actually doing, you're not being civil. You're not being, you're not being compassionate. That's not what you're doing. What you're actually doing is telling this person, I don't have to leave this. Why should I give up this? I know my Lord didn't sanction it, but I don't really have to leave it. Here I have a Muslim right here. He's coming over right now. He's going to congratulate me on it. I don't have to leave my disobedience. Why? I don't have to leave my disbelief. Why? I don't have to believe the fact that this is innovating because Allah didn't sanction it. Why? Why should I give up all of that? In other words, when you support them in this, by you just giving them that greeting, you are actually aiding them on. There's no need to give it up now. Why would I give it up? You're just telling them basically they don't have to give it up. You have to be strong. And you cannot allow, wallahi tallahi wallahi, you cannot allow the fact that we are the minority of the minority. Do not use that weak excuse. It's a weak excuse. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you don't study the seerah, you wouldn't know. The Prophet ﷺ, during the time of the da'wah to sirr, during the beginning half of his da'wah, what was the Muslims? Was the minority or was the majority? When did jihad become instituted? When did most of the rulings of Islam become instituted? And what was their state? Did they participate in the festivities of the Quraysh and the Mushrikeen because they was the minority? Show me that. In Mecca, when they were being persecuted, and they were being this because they were weak, and they was the minority, did they join in with the Mushrikun because of the fact that they were minorities? Because they couldn't have the vast majority, didn't have no ground of actions, didn't have no strength. Did they participate? You won't find nothing in the seerah that support that evidence, support that claim. Nothing. Did they participate? Actually, they clinched firmly in not participating more. Even during the time when they were at the weakest, do you understand? That they were being persecuted, they actually held on more. Before Allah Azza wa Jal instituted the fact that the hijrah didn't take place, because there were two hijras that took place. One to the Abyssinia when the Prophet ﷺ sent some of his companions. Uthman was on the first trip. Do you understand that? When they went to Abyssinia. Then there was another one that took place when they made the hijrah to Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ was the last of the people to leave. Him and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Read the seerah. They was minority. When did other things come in? So you can't use the claim because we are the minority here that we need to go in line with what the people are doing. No, we don't. If they disobeying the law, we're not going in line with that. If they are innovating in a deen, we're not going in line with that. If they're celebrating kufr, we're not going in line with that. If they're doing different things like this of shirk, we're not going in line with that. I don't care how weak we are. I don't care how few we are. I don't care how the numbers of ours. We're not doing it. Henceforth, the people of the cave. You not read the Quran? The seven of the cave. Do you not read the Quran? The people were predominantly doing in their time. Read the tafsir. They were upon kufr. They were upon doing disobedience and this and this and that. These individuals took themselves to the cave and secluded themselves, man. This is what they did. They did not participate because they were the minority. They didn't use the excuse because the people were the overwhelmingly majority, and that this is the norms and the times of society, and that we need to get it wrong. No, they ran with their deen. They ran with their deen to the Jabal, to the mountain. Allah caused them to sleep. Do you not get it? There's no way in history you're going to find, because you're the minority, it gives you an excuse to disobey Allah. You're never going to find that, man. You're never. Fear Allah Azza wa Jalla. You're not going to find that. He says here, that's what you're doing. Whoever does anything this sort is a sinner. Whether he does it out of politeness to be friendly, or because he is too shy to refuse, or for whatever other reason. Because this is nifaq. Pay attention now. He's going deep. It's Ibn Taymiyyah. This is hypocrisy. You understand? In Islam. This is hypocrisy. This is an individual who is not strong in the adherence of his deen. This is an individual who have shown you that on the battlefield he will run. And you say, how did I get that? How did I make that analogy? Because you're always on a battlefield. We are battling and struggling against our soul. That's number one, jihadun nafs. And then we are battling against the ideological attacks that is being done by the kuffar, that are being done by the people of bid'ah, that are being done by the people of sins. We are on an attack and a war. Just because you're not on the battlefield with no gun or with no knife or sling like that, you are in a battle. Do you understand that? You are in a battle. Henceforth, why you think there are books like that? Ibn Taymiyyah got the book of what? The friends, the awliya al-Rahman. And then you have what? Against the friends of the awliya al-Shaitan. Allah talks about that even in the Quran, fi Surah An-Nisa. Do you understand that? You are in a battle constantly with people. So if you can't uphold your own tenets, and you can't uphold your own principles, and you're going to give in at that moment, that let me know on the real battlefield, on a physical plane, you're going to run. You're going to run. You can't even stand up against it here. How many think you're going to stand up against the kuffar? You can't even stand up for it here. You're going to run. You're going to flee with your backs. As the Tabi'i, he says to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, I wish I was alive during the time of the battles, so I could participate with you in the battles. He says, subhanallah, no you wouldn't. He said, because we were there and our hearts was flowing out of our chests. You understand? We gotta stop being amazed with ourselves, man, and really start giving Allah the haqq that is due. Meaning, let Islam really seep into your pores, man. Stop trying to give it your own interpretation. Let it seep into your pores. Islam brings about complete separation, haqq from batil. That's what it does. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you want to say. It got nothing to do with you not trying to be unified. It brings about a complete distinction and separation between haqq and batil. That's what it does. It's lazim. It is compulsory that this is what it does. If you're upon haqq, this is the way you're going to behave. If you're upon batil, this is the way you're going to behave. The people of batil are going to support the people of batil. The people of haqq are going to support the people of haqq. That's how it is. We're not going to be apologetic for that. How are you going to be apologetic for that? Because if you don't really understand what I'm saying to you, the people of haqq are the people of Jannah. Do you understand it now? The people of batil are the people of hellfire. Do you understand it now? That's how deep it is. I'm going to go even further, more deeper than that. The people of the haqq are the people of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the party of Allah. Hizbullah. And the people who are upon batil, that's Hizbul Shaitan. How deep you wanted to go? Do you understand the difference? You understand what's going on here? So it's either you with Allah and His party, or you with Shaitan and His party. That's how it works. And until you start realizing that, this is where you're going to always come up to your job, and you're going to have people doing it. We have people to this day, subhanAllah wa liyadu billah. We have people to this day, subhanAllah, we have people to this day who bring trees home in their house. I guarantee you right now. You see it. You have Muslims right now who got trees in their homes. I mean, it's a contradiction to Tawheed in and of itself. That you have a tree, right? Even the concept of Christmas. If you even go into the concept of Christmas, and you even go into how all of it is taken from paganism. That's what it's taken from. It's not even taken from Christianity. It's taken from paganism, right? And you look at all of the stuff that is done there. It validates the very Tawheed you say you profess. And you don't even get it. That's crazy. You go in there with a tree. First of all, to believe that someone is coming down, showering people with gifts from Bani Adam, something's wrong with you. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who gives gifts. All right? And you don't need a certain day for that. This is why we don't think about implications about how real stuff is, man. We really don't give thoughts. We just want to follow everybody because they're doing it, man. That's why Allah Azza wa Jalla made it clear. He said you will find most of the people that they will commit shirk. This is what they do. It's Bani Adam. Their intellect can't lead them. Most of them are astray. Now you can understand why Allah says that, because most of them prefer kufr, prefer shirk over that which is what? As Sheikh Salih Fawzan said, he says, many of the people, وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ لَا يُحِبُّونَ السُّنَّةِ بَلْ يُفِرُّونَ مِنْهَا. He said, many of the people, they don't love the sunnah. Yeah, they make claims, but they don't love the sunnah. Rather, they flee from the sunnah. You know why they don't love the sunnah? It restricts and checks their desires. Why would I want to be upon that? I'm not going to follow I want to follow my desires. I want to do such and such. I want to do this. So I don't want to be upon the sunnah, but I want to tell you I'm upon the sunnah when I want you out of my way. I want to tell you I'm upon the sunnah because, yeah, I'm following the Salafi because it's something to say. I want you upon the sunnah. No, well, where's you at upon the sunnah when it comes to Christmas? Where's you at upon the sunnah when it comes to Thanksgiving? Where are you impacted upon the sunnah when it comes to actually New Year's? You have Muslims on their timelines talking about my New Year's resolution. No resolution for no year? What is wrong with you? Do you understand that? The deeds are presented to Allah Azza wa Jal 3 times. 2 times, it is mentioned in one day. That's the morning and the evening. And then it's mentioned twice in the week. That's Monday and that is Thursday, which is Yom Ithnain or Yom Khamis. And then it's mentioned once a year, which is in Sha'ban. There are hadiths for each one of these. Do you understand that? That's when the deeds are presented. So what is your resolution? Your resolution every day you wake up is to what? Free your soul. The Prophet said each day the son of Adam wake up, he have the what? The power to what? Free his soul or imprison it. That's your resolution. You want to tell me about a resolution I'm having for New Year's, or this year I'm leaving all that behind. No, you're not. This year you're starting off with disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jalla by imitating the kuffar. This year I'm leaving this behind. But you say you Salafi. That's what everybody say. I'm Salafi. Man, come on, man. It's a shame and it's an affront to the people of Salafiyah. It's a shame to the Salaf, man. Because when you read their biographies, they wasn't as weak like we were, man. They weren't. They didn't actually make excuses to start pacifying people upon their kufr.
They didn't do that, man. They allowed Islam to transform them, and that's where they was at. And that's why we talk about them, and that's why we want to emulate them, because they allowed it to transfer them. They didn't care if the people didn't like them. They didn't care if the people didn't see them this way, or the people didn't accept them. They wasn't looking for acceptance. They only needed from one person. That's Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the only acceptance that they needed. And they was okay with that. And that was sufficient for them. But not for us. We always got to make an excuse, man. We always got to make an excuse, man. And it's a shame. Wanted to bring that last, all of this where I got from, so that you know, this is taken from Shaykh Uthaymeen Fatawa al-Rasail. Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he brings all of this in his Fatawa, that he answered the question, showing you that the impermissibility of, celebrating the festivities of the kuffar. Stop taking this as a light matter. This isn't a light matter. Please don't take it as a light matter. If you really don't know about your deen, then you need to learn about your deen. And if you are actually at the point that you do have a Christmas tree in your house, immediately take it down. Don't allow the shaitan to play with you. Take it down. You want to give your kids anything, give them tawheed. Give them sunnah. That's the best gift you can give them. And understand that you don't have to imitate the kuffar and what they're doing. Allah Azza wa Jal made it clear. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Allah said they are the worst of the creation. Alright? You don't have to try to imitate them. That's not where it lies at. Imitate the people who are the best of the people, man. And that's what I wanted to bring tonight. Inshallah ta'ala. Maybe, inshallah, I know a lot of people ain't going to just take the Christmas trees down just because I'm saying it. But I also want to give advice to the brothers and the sisters. Keep reminding about the harms and the danger of this. I don't care how many people get mad. I don't care how many people are, every year y'all talk about the impermissibility of this. Every year, I don't care. Keep doing it. Because your reward is with Allah. And it's your job to do that. We stand in face of that which is wrong. Why? Because Allah told us that the believers, al-mu'minuna, that the believers, ba'aduhum ala ba'd, in Surah At-Tawbah, that believers are awliya to one another. They yu'miruna bil ma'ruf, they command the good, wa yanhuna anil munkar, and they prohibit against the munkar. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Hajj that He had promised, He had made a promise, wa'adallahu minkum, Allah has made a promise from amongst you, those who la yastaklifanna, that He would give yastaklifanna, He would give them succession in the land, if they do what? If they hold on to worshiping Allah alone, and do not commit any partners with Him, He would give them safety. If they command the good and prohibit the evil. Allah says in Surah Ali Imran, let there be from you a party that rise up to command the good and forbid the evil. Don't let nobody tell you because every year you want to post up the impermissibility of following these holidays that you are wrong. You're not wrong. Continue to post them up. Continue to be a thorn in the side of people's desires. Continue and educate. That's what we do. We don't sit there and be apologetic because we're putting it up. No, it's haram. And that lets you know a telltale sign. If a brother got a problem with you saying something is haram that Allah and His Messenger said is haram, something is wrong. If a sister got a problem with you saying something is haram that Allah and His Messenger said is haram, then something is wrong. How you got a problem? The kuffar is not even going back and forth with you about you telling them that the festival is haram. But you got the Muslims who are arguing you down. Brother, why you got to say this every year? Sister, why you got to post this every year? Why? That doesn't sound weak. How you defending? This is crazy. But you're the minority, though. How you defending someone who's not even defending themselves on that? How you're defending them? No, the reason why we're posting it is because we have Muslims who are imitating them and who are not understanding the harm and the danger that they're doing. That's what it is. We ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to really bring us back to the deen, to the Quran and the Sunnah ala Fahm Salaf. I mean, we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to allow us to really imitate the Salaf. Really imitate. That means by learning who they are, by knowing who they are, reading their biographies and studying them. And then also, inshallah ta'ala, by following in their footsteps. That's what I wanted to bring tonight. Whatever I said that was incorrect, for myself and the shaitan. Whatever I said is correct is from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan.